Thanks everyone for joining us today for our spring Chagrin River and Lake Erie Direct Tributaries Watershed Advisory Committee meeting. I'm Cisco Rivera, the Watershed team leader for this area and the East Side communities. Here is our agenda for today. We have a lot of great things to talk about. We're going to give you information about our inspection and maintenance department, technical support, design and construction updates, and some code updates. And during each presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat. You can see the chat button up top, or if you'd like, you can raise your hand. Feel free to use that hand wave function and ask a question. Don't be shy, because we'd love to have some conversations going during these presentations. So to kick things off, I'm going to hand it off to our Deputy Director of Watershed Programs, Matt Sharver, to go over some program highlights.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just a couple brief comments before we get started into the agenda here. If you noticed in the agenda, the last three bullets of the agenda are really going to focus in on our wastewater programming, particularly our code updates to Titles 3 and Title 4. I think many of you in the municipalities are aware of those code changes, but we wanted to talk through those a little bit in more depth today under the Watershed Advisory Committee meetings, because sometimes we do have intersections with the stormwater program and the wastewater programming that we try to implement. So we'll give you some more details on that in terms of funding opportunities that are on the landscape right now that we all should be trying to take advantage of. But I did want to comment on the Regional Stormwater Management Program in general. I think we're still being quite effective in our implementation, and that's in large part due to you all that continue to participate and work with us in a collaborative manner. So our member communities and our partners, it's really been a good process. A lot of good projects have been constructed now, a lot more in design, and a lot more are coming along from our master planning efforts as we continue to coordinate and try to pool our resources together to implement projects across the region. So thank you for that, and hope you enjoy the information that we present today. And if you have any questions, our staff are certainly available to help you. So with that, I'll pass it back to Cisco.
All right, thank you, Matt. So here is the new Watershed Team Leader map assignments. You can see there in the medium shade of blue on the west side, Nicole Velez is the team leader there. Me, Cisco Rivera, I'm on the east side in the dark blue east side communities. And to the south of Cleveland is our new Watershed Team Leader, Ann Schilling. That'll be her coverage area. And then to round it out, Donna Friedman, the Manager of Community Watershed Coordination, covers the city of Cleveland proper. So this is the new Community Watershed Coordination team map. So to talk about a community car share program, as you know, 25% of the total annual stormwater management program fees collected from each member community are allocated to your community cost share account. And you can use these on local stormwater projects. So currently, as you can see, there's over $21 million available to our member communities for your local projects. A few things to keep in mind. You need an approved application and executed agreement before a project begins. So you want to make sure and submit your application and get it approved and get that agreement executed. Also, consider an allocation agreement for larger projects to allow for reimbursement over the next 5 years. This way you don't have to have all the money in your account up front. And also, when your projects are complete, remember to go ahead and submit for reimbursement. The funds are there for you, and you know that they're encumbered and ready for you to receive them back through reimbursement. So please submit your reimbursements and continue to use your community cost share funds. And then I always wanted to share with you, here's a little kind of highlight, if you can see, since the program started, how much money has been reimbursed in total annually. And as you can see, over $39 million has been reimbursed for stormwater projects in the local communities. So this program has been very effective, and we'd like to continue to see that happening in the region. So now I'm going to hand it off to Andriana Hayes, one of our stormwater inspectors, for our inspection and maintenance update.
Thanks, Isco. So since we last met in the fall, from October to February of 2023, we have completed a total of 89 inspections in the Chagrin and Lake Erie tributary watersheds combined. So we have completed about 6 cases, which are customer request inspections for issues such as debris, flooding, or erosion. We've completed 1 CCTV inspection, which is when we have our culverted streams inspected by a contractor to get a video for our smaller diameter regional pipes. We've completed 38 debris inspections, which include our quarterly debris rack inspections, as well as our other responsible party inspections. So those are crossings owned by entities such as ODOT, the county, the turnpike, or the parks. We've completed 42 preventative inspections, which are just our regular follow-up inspections based on structural condition. And we have completed 1 other responsible party inspection, which is when we obtain a structural score from an inspection report from the entity of that crossing. So a report from ODOT, the county, or the turnpike, we use that to update the score that we have in our database for that asset. We have also completed 1 urgent storm inspection in that time frame. Next slide, please. So our maintenance department, since we last met, has completed 17 debris and sediment removal projects in the Chagrin and Lake Erie tributary watersheds. So those debris and sediment removal projects totaled approximately 399 cubic yards of debris and 150 cubic yards of sediment removed. We have also completed 6 vegetation management maintenance projects, which are performed by our internal maintenance crew, and they're primarily performed at regional project sites, and they include activities such as weed and invasive species management, tree pruning, planting live stakes, etc. Next slide, please. This year, we are beginning the design of debris racks at the inlets of 2 culverted stream sections of 9 Mile Creek along Belvoir Road in Cleveland and Cleveland Heights. The stream corridor upstream of these culverted stream inlets is heavily wooded, which leads to debris within the culverted stream. So as you can see on the photo on the right of the tree coming out of the manhole, the debris removals are difficult to perform because they require a confined space entry into the culverted stream, and the debris is removed from these high traffic areas that are in the roadway at these manholes. So it's typically a bit of a difficult process to get the debris out. At this particular location, the culvert is about 12 by 12 feet there's a middle wall that splits the culvert into 2 pipes. And so it's a hot spot for debris in the culvert to accumulate at this location, which is where this manhole is located. We have previously removed approximately 130 cubic yards of large woody debris from this culvert. So installing these debris racks and access roads at the inlets will significantly improve our inspection and maintenance processes for access and debris removal. Next slide, please. This year, we began construction in January 2023 of our Doan Brook Stream Bank Stabilization at the Shaker Heights Country Club. The asset was identified as a top contributor of sediment to Green Lake during a SWIM 2021 root cause failure analysis study. So performing this project, we determined would help prevent sediment transport to the Green Lake forebay, which would reduce our dredging maintenance efforts in the future. Next slide, please. And so this photo was taken about a week ago. So this is prior to the planting of a native riparian mix along the soil bank area that you can see above the rock protection. And that will be completed by the substantial completion date of April 30th, 2023. And next we have Mike Blair, who is the project manager in our Watershed Technical Support Group.
Thanks, Andriana, and good afternoon, everyone. If we have the next slide, please. Just to give you a quick summary regarding the Chagrin River and Lake Erie Direct Tribs Stormwater Master Plan. The study itself was completed in May of last year. And since that time, we've distributed all the community reports to each of the communities located within the Chagrin River and Lake Erie Direct Tribs watersheds. So you should have a chance to take a look at those and review them and let us know if you have any questions. Since that time, in the last fall, I'll be talking about this shortly, we have taken all the problem areas identified during this study and have put them through our nomination process. We've scored each of the problem areas and have prioritized them and started to incorporate them as part of our annual stormwater construction plan review. What I'd again like to reiterate to everybody here is that please take a look at these community reports and the plan, the overall report themselves, and let us know. Reach out to your watershed team leader to let them know if you have any questions, if you'd like us to review the problem areas with you, to get any updates that you might have, and any questions you might have about implementing the alternatives that are identified in the master plan. Next slide. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, we have taken both the problem areas that were identified in the latest stormwater master plan study with all the other nominated projects and have gone through the nomination process again to eventually get to coming up with our 2023 stormwater construction plan. So we took all the chalet nominations and ran them through up to August of 2022. We validated those nominations to see if there was any additional information that needed to be added to those. That took place in August through October of last year. We also looked at any previous nominations to see if, again, if those needed to be updated as well. And once we had those all taken care of, we went through and scored them and then ran them through our prioritization process, which would be completed in November of last year. Right now, we're finalizing the 2023 stormwater construction plan, which we have hoped to have approved by our board later this month. Next slide. Based on our 2022 nomination run, we came up with the top 25 stormwater project nominations. If you take a look at the graph on the left, what this will show you is the distribution of those projects over several statuses. So approximately 5 of these projects are currently ready to be there's no further study that needs to be done, and they're ready to be proposed to go into our design and construction phase of our workflow. There are actually 12 projects that were identified in the top 25 nominations that do need some additional work, where we would recommend that they be moved forward into our advanced planning process. And I'll break down a little while here as to why we might recommend further planning on these particular projects. And then lastly, we have the remaining 8 projects that are already in the process of going through design at this point, getting ready for construction. And then on the pie chart on the right gives you basically a breakdown of the distribution of these top 25 stormwater projects within each of the watersheds. So you see the majority is at this time is falling into the Cuyahoga River North at about 48%. Chalets coming up at around 32%, and the remainder is split between the Chagrin River South and the Rocky River. Next slide, please. So as we're putting together our 2023 stormwater construction plan, we have approximately 20 projects that are being carried over from last year that will again be incorporated into this year's construction plan. And as you go through the list here, you can see that we do have projects that span each of the 4 major watersheds within our stormwater service area. Next slide, please. In addition to those, we're also going to be adding 4 additional projects that are immediately ready to implement into our design phase. The first one, which will be the Phase A Cleated Ditch. We have a lot of fielding infrastructure going on there, so we're going to be moving that ahead through our design plan. Actually, they'll be going through pre-design. The next one, which is located in the Rocky River watershed, West Branch Problem Area 5, located in Olmsted Township. In this case, we've actually secured a critical mass of the property that we needed to acquire in order to move forward with phase 1 of that project. So we've put it on the list for this year. The next one, the Applewood Basin improvements. Again, that'll be in the Rocky River watershed. Again, we have a large amount of fielding infrastructure associated with those basins where we thought it was prudent to move that into design to make improvements to those basins to be able to maintain the conveyance through the RSS in that area. And then finally, with the Smith Road Basin, this is in the Rocky River on Abrams Creek. Again, here we've actually secured all the property that's associated with this alternative. And we've also received federal funding to implement the design of this and construction of this project as well. So based on the timing of that federal funding, we needed to move that forward at this time for the 2023 construction plan. I will want to let everybody know here that this isn't the only list of new projects coming on board. As we gain further capacity, both financially and with design, labor and such, we'll be moving additional projects through this year. Next slide, please. So again, this basically shows you the distribution of the projects that are currently in the 2023 stormwater construction plan, which basically mirrors what you saw in the same pie chart for the nominations that were completed last year. Next slide. Now, as I mentioned, we have about a dozen projects that make up our top 25 stormwater nominations that we're actually recommending to go through our advanced stormwater planning process. And the reason why we want to move these projects into this phase is that these are projects that when we were doing the planning study really require additional information to fully understand the RSS impacts going on with these problem areas. So this may require additional coordination with the community members that are affected by this problem area, doing some further detailed analysis of our swim models that cover the problem areas, and actually maybe even gathering some further field verification information. The second way that this might go into advanced planning is based on the cost that was put together during the master plan study. Where we basically get projects that are essentially $10 million or more, that's a significant impact on our annual budget, and it puts a big strain on that. So that's where we want to take a look at these again, see if we can break these down into phases, which are more easily able to go through our workflow on an annual basis. Another reason, again, we would want to do phases is that if we're looking at a particularly complex alternative as well, again, where these could be potentially problem areas that might be a mile long, involve both culverts, open stream segments, and crossings. And what, again, we're trying to do is break that up into more manageable projects that we can put out for bid and to implement for construction. We may also have additional issues with acquiring property and easements that might need to be further identified in the advanced planning process, and again with the coordination with our outside stakeholders. Next slide. So a couple of the projects that we're actually carrying over from last year into 2023 would include 2 that are located in the Chagrin River North, basically associated with the west branch of the Big Creek. The first one on your left is the Puritas Basin. We're doing an alternatives analysis there, which should be completed in the third quarter of this year. And then we're going to be looking at a neighborhood, the Milliken, Irwin, and Carrington Avenue neighborhood, just east of West 130th Street. Again, this has been ongoing, looking at the alternatives, tweaking them where we need to do it in order to get that advanced planning done in the third quarter of 2023. Next slide. And following the completion of those two, we're going to be starting up a third advanced planning task. Again, this involves the Big Creek West Branch, basically 3 problem areas that were identified in that area. In this case, the preferred alternatives that were developed for those 3 problem areas are no longer viable. So what we want to do is, again, get a better understanding of the interactions between the regional stormwater system and the adjacent local stormwater system through our modeling, and get a better understanding of what the benefits are to the RSS and the LSS by implementing the new alternatives that are identified during this planning process. Next slide. In addition to those district-led projects that we're going to be implementing as far as design, we have a number of community-led projects as well, where these are being led by an individual community, and we're providing either technical or financial support to. So if you take a look at the list here, we basically have 5, actually 6 projects that are currently under design at this time. We have 3 projects that are getting ready to start or are currently in the construction phase, and we've just recently completed in December of 2022 the Foster's Brook stream restoration over in Mayfield Village. Our community lead on that one was the Cleveland Metro Parks. Next slide. In addition to those, we also have basically projects that are being led by the various watershed groups that are located within our stormwater service area. And basically the projects that you see on this slide are projects where those watershed groups have been able to obtain Ohio EPA Section 319 grants to allow them to at least partially fund these stormwater restoration projects. These projects are also receiving a certain degree of matching funds from the district. So we're both providing both financial and in some cases technical assistance as well. So in this case, again, we have 2 projects that are in design. And actually, as of last week, that West Creek Padua stream restoration is actually moved into the construction phase. So I'll have to adjust this for next meeting. We have 3 other projects that are, again, going to be beginning in the construction phase. And late last year, we completed the Beechers Brook, or actually, I should say the Cleveland Metro Parks completed the Beechers Brook stream restoration project. Again, this was in Mayfield Village. Next slide. Now, one of the projects, the 319 projects that I'd like to highlight for everybody here is a 319 project that's being actually led by the Dome Brook Watershed Partnership Group that's in Swinsky Park in the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. This project is going to basically involve the restoration and stabilization of 600 linear feet of stream bank along a portion of Dome Brook that's located behind the Ukrainian and Latvian cultural gardens in this portion of the watershed. In the image, what you're seeing here is basically, you can see where this section of Dome Brook was originally aligned with sandstone and concrete blocks to basically maintain the walls of the brook in this section. Over the years, these walls have started to fail, as you can see on the left, or have completely failed, and it has exposed the soil behind it, which is starting to erode and degrade the water quality of Dome Brook. If we go to the next slide, I'll show you some of the progress that has been made on this project. In December of 2022, Dome Brook and their construction contractor, River Reach Construction, began work on this phase of the project. What you're seeing here is that they're going to basically move the existing channel that you see in the foreground here and put it into a more centralized area of the construction site. And the overall goal is to actually expand the floodplain in this particular area, reshape the slopes on either side of the new channel that will be going through this portion of the cultural gardens, and trying to develop some at least one small wetland area to basically further enhance the habitat and fish passage and invertebrate passage in this portion of Dome Brook. And that's what you're seeing here. They're just getting ready to, they're actually started construction of the new channel, which you can see in the center there. They started laying out the floodplain itself and restabilizing the banks. If we go to the next slide. This was taken in early February of this year. At this time, they've moved the channel over to the center of the floodplain. They've completed the stabilization of the banks and opened up the floodplain. And in this image, they're laying out the topsoil in preparation for finalizing the wetland that'll be shown in the next part of the slide. Next. And as of today, this is what the project site looks like as of right now. They've reached substantial completion at the end of February this year. And again, what you can see there is a more sinuous main channel of the Dome Brook with a more expanded floodplain, stabilized banks. We're able to cut down in some areas those concrete blocks to again allow us to open up that channel, open up that floodplain a bit. And if you look in the lower right or lower left-hand corner, you can see where we basically repurposed the old stream channel to make a small wetland area there that'll be further enhanced with additional plantings that will be occurring later this spring. Next slide. And then finally, what I'd like to do is present to you a project that's going to be initiating this year, which is the Dugway Brook Subwatershed Estuary and Stream Restoration Study. This project is being led by the Chagrin River Watershed Partners and with support of a grant that they received from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, and also some matching funds from both the district, the village of Bratenahl, the city of Cleveland, Bluestone Heights Watershed Partners, and the Dome Brook Watershed Partnership, among others. And what this overall study is looking at is the feasibility of trying to restore the old Dugway Brook estuary, where it goes into Lake Erie, to try and put it back into its more natural condition. And then that's shown in that magenta block area to the north of Interstate 90. And then what we'd also wanted to do is take a look at a section of the Dome Brook south of 90 that's currently in a large concrete culvert. And looking at the potential of possibly trying to open this section of the stream up, instead of it being in a culvert, opening it up into a more open stream with floodplain here to make this more friendly for both fish habitat and invertebrate habitat and passage. So what we're going to be doing here is hiring a consultant to take a look at these two areas and also engage with the communities to make sure that this is something that we get community buy-in with as well. And that's going to be imperative for us to move forward if it looks like these are feasible projects to move forward with. Next slide. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I'd be happy to turn the presentation over to Kim Coolidge, who is our manager of stormwater design. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mike. That was a great presentation, and I think kind of helps understand our process of finalizing all these master plans, getting them nominated and prioritized, and certainly we can have lots more discussions on that process in future WAC meetings to come. So I'm here to specifically talk about our stormwater design and construction program, specifically in this watershed, the Chagrin and Lake Erie direct tributaries. I've been providing this for a few WAC meetings now, just like a overall list of active projects. So this is a list of projects that are currently actively under construction, not yet closed out. projects that are beginning construction in various stages of design. And on the very bottom of the list, we have a project that we're about to start design on. So we wanted to give you a complete list of all those projects. And a couple things to note here. First of all, we do have a link there for our project story map. And so when you all get a copy of this presentation, feel free to go to that link. It really does give you more information about each of our projects that maybe you see on this list, projects that we've completed across our service area, and then contact information if you want to learn more. So we're always here through our Watershed team leaders to give you more information about these projects and the benefits of these projects. In this list itself, the active construction and design projects totals over 130 million in construction. So we are continuing to push these projects out and spend money where our prioritization leads us on getting these problems solved.
And actually, you can hover over that link if you're on your
Oh.
laptop and click on it. So
That is amazing. I had
There you
no
go.
idea, Donna. Thank you.
no problem.
Okay. And if you want to click on it after we've moved on, I think you might be able to navigate back yourself with the little arrows on the bottom if you see those. If not, no problem. Okay, we're ready, Cisco. Okay, so I think a couple of projects to highlight in design within this watershed area. The first of which is the Forest Hills Park Dam, which is located in Forest Hills Park in the city of East Cleveland. This project was identified through our master planning process, as well as identified because we know that ODNR has been inspecting this dam, and it's currently not meeting the requirements of its ODNR classification. So we have been studying this and determining whether or not we can lower this dam to get outside of ODNR's regulations or completely remove it. As we've started this project, we've run into some modeling challenges, looking at the flows that are coming upstream and going downstream from this dam location. So we've taken a little bit of a design pause and decided to look at installing some more monitors upstream so that we could better understand the impact that this current dam has on flooding downstream before we take actions to remove or to lower the dam. We've also been working with stakeholders in the area to make sure that everyone's on the same page with plans moving forward so that none of us are stepping on anyone else's toes. So more to come on this project, but this is kind of an example of sometimes when you start on a project, you need to just take a quick pause and make sure you have all the information and data you need in order to move forward in a way that everyone is comfortable with. And the next project is the Doan Brook restoration near Horseshoe Lake Park. We have a few slides on this, and I'll go through a little bit of a summary of where we're currently at and where we're headed with this project. This project is to remove the Horseshoe Lake Dam, which is a failing dam, and restore the two stream corridors that were impounded by this dam, one on the north side and one on the south side there, that form that horseshoe shape of the previous lake. We're going to be integrating stream restoration with some landscape architecture. Our consultant is a joint venture between AECom and Stimson. We are currently under pre-design. We have done extensive public outreach and public forums, both from communicating where we're at, as well as gaining information back from the public on, some things they want to see in this park after we're done with the project. It looks like June we'll be wrapping up our pre-design. After that pre-design is wrapped up, we'll be moving into detailed design, hopefully with our AECom Stimson team. So public engagement processes have been important through this pre-design. The map you see here was the map that we used for our first outreach event, which was last August, and just kind of set up lots of tents around the park with different topics for those who came to the event to discuss with experts. And so that event was great to hear about how people use the park and how we want to, plan for future use of the park. And so after that event, our designers went and started working on these different alignments for the streams. Again, there's two streams that kind of come together. So one of the questions was, where should these streams now confluence together? Where do they meet? Is it at the dam location or the existing dam location? Is it further downstream? Where does the stream want to be? Where can we put the stream so that we can provide the park with space for any landscaping or public park amenities that the communities might want to have? So what we did was we took these three different possible alignments, and we came back together with the public in December. And if you go to the next slide, Cisco. And we had three different alignments. We had park amenities cut out that people could place on the maps to kind of give us an idea of what type of park they would like and what landscape architectural features that they were interested in seeing in the park. Some of the items that they could place included paths to cross the stream, bird lookout locations, more traditional park features, a sledding hill, or an amphitheater, as something as large as an amphitheater, and they had different values with them. So we kind of challenged the participants to look at all of the potential amenities within a certain budget, knowing that we can't put everything out there and have to prioritize what they wanted to see. The other thing I'll note, and hopefully you can see this on the picture on the left, is we also gave participants little cutouts that showed certain volumes of sediment. Because what we do know and what we're challenged with at this project location is lots of sediment that has settled out behind the existing dam over the past 100+ years. And so the real question that we need to get through is, what do we do with that sediment? Can we use that sediment to create landscaping mounds within the park area? Are there locations to put the sediment that might give it some landscape creativity or innovation within the park space? Because what we do believe, based upon testing, is that we have, I think, about 180,000 cubic yards behind that existing dam. So we could remove it all, but that's expensive. So are there ways to use it appropriately on site that would benefit ecology, benefit the landscape, and in other ways? So we really challenge the participants to take a look at the sediment and how that could be moved around the site in order to reuse that material. The other thing we did with the sediment, which is what we do in most of our projects that have a basin, an impoundment, or any kind of feature that holds back that fine sediment that settles out, is we do extensively test that material. So not only from a geotechnical soil property perspective, but we also test it for contaminants or constituents to make sure we know exactly what's in that sediment, because at the end of the day, if there's anything in there that we need to be concerned about, we certainly need to plan for that during the design of the project. And so this project was no different. We tested the sediment. Not only did we get the volume, we got the geotechnical soil properties and the constituents. And luckily for this project, what we found is, the sediment at Horseshoe Lake is really no different from any urban sediment that you would find in any other stormwater basin. And so we're moving forward with that. And during construction, we always verify where the contractor's taking the material. Make sure that they have the proper permits to take it there. And so there's a lot of oversight from the sewer district's perspective on how we manage that sediment, not only in the pre-design phase where we're at now, but all the way through the end of construction. Okay, and then I think one project to highlight during the construction section, the next slide. Right, so we're actively constructing this Pepperloose Creek project in Pepper Pike on Gates Mills Boulevard. This is a project where we purchased one home in order to reroute a failing culvert. And we also had the opportunity to provide more storage within the boulevard of Gates Mills Boulevard to hold back more water, because this was a location where during large rain events, the water was overtopping the road in excess of our measured 9 inches. We always use this 9-inch rule where we consider that impassable. So this project not only provided storage and replaced an existing culvert that was failing, but we also tied into the downstream open channel segment. So that's currently under construction. It started last year. I believe our completion should be this summer, maybe third quarter this year. So we'll have that completed. And the one thing to note, or something to note on this project, was that the city of Pepper Pike utilized some community cost share for rehabbing one of the upstream culverts within the project area that was within the right of way. So this one's rolling and hopefully to be complete soon. And then I think one project to note completed. I think this one is also in the city of Pepper Pike. This was a stabilization near Lander Road, another project where we were able to purchase a home and expand the floodplain, fix a failing incised channel, and revegetate it with good riparian vegetation. We don't have a picture from this year yet. I can't wait to go out there to see maybe a late spring picture here to see all that vegetation popping out there. So we're really excited about how this project came out. Okay, so thank you, everyone. I guess I can't take any questions, and if there are none, I will turn it over to Rob Sturkle, who is our Community Discharge Permit Program Specialist. So over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Kim. I am here to talk about plan review with Sages Gov. Next slide, please, Francisco. So we do a number of different types of plan reviews at the district. Title 4 is a stormwater management review that occurs in the combined sewer area. So it's primarily Cleveland and some of the east side communities, maybe the inner ring suburbs, portions of them. Title 5 is our review that occurs in the entire stormwater service area. And that is for projects that are regulated by the member community's local stormwater management ordinance or resolution. And that is located, as I said, within the stormwater service area. So communities that are in the stormwater service area and have separated sewers should be directing the engineers for these projects to submit these plans to the sewer district for review. And I'll go over how that's done in a moment. We also review the Green Infrastructure Grant Program projects, direct connection requests, which is when you're putting a pipe physically up to a sewer district facility. Acceptance of flow requests. This is actually part of the Ohio EPA PTI program, where we will need to verify that we can accept a flow from new subdivisions or extensions of sewer more generally. We do the utility verification reviews that are basically road projects or public projects that just want to make sure that the sewer district's facilities are represented correctly. And member community infrastructure program reviews, where we're looking to see if the project is meeting the original intent of what was funded. Next slide, please. We do these reviews using Sages Gov. Sages Gov is an online plan review platform, and you can access it through nursd.org. You go to under the business section, and then there's a plan review section. And when you get to that page, you can see the Sages Gov logo over on the right side, and you can click on that logo. The first thing you have to do is register. So Sages is a communication between our technical reviewers and the engineers. They register, submit these plans, get the comments through Sages, and it's all done through these accounts. You can do it as a company admin account. So in other words, somebody at Osborne Engineering, for instance, would manage the account of all the Osborne engineers. But there is turnover, and it's very often easier if we just manage it using an individual account here at the district. What this does, once you register, it will verify your email, and now you're ready to use SagesGov. Next slide, please. So once you've registered, you've verified your email, you log in, you'll see our home screen there where you will choose the review type that is required. You select that review. There's an application to fill out, which is basically contact information for us. You upload the plans and stormwater management reports, which should be in a PDF format. That is what SagesGov accepts. At the end of these few steps, you hit the submit button. That now uploads it to a cloud at the SagesGov site. So it kind of protects the sewer district from any kind of malicious attack or uploading. Then we will get emails saying these reviews are ready. They need to be reviewed. And SagesGov won't let us forget about that. Next slide, please. SagesGov will also send the applicant an email. So whoever uploads things gets this email from SagesGov saying that their plan review has been accepted. So that is one way to verify, for instance, that applicants have sent their drawings to the sewer district. Only the applicant is notified and has access. So if there's a group or a team working on it, somebody will have to download and at the other end, at the engineer's end, and send those projects out. Under files, you can see marked up drawings. Once you have looked at the comments that are made at the district, you can revise the plans and use the resubmit function. So you'll upload these plans, and you also have to reply to each comment that was made. There's a box where you'll type in a response, upload your plans, and hit submit. You also get a chance, you could revise your application at this point if you needed to, because if somebody else is on the project. Next slide, please. At the end of each one of these reviews, besides the emails you're getting from Sages, there's some other paperwork. In a Title IV in the combined sewer area, we issue a no objection letter on sewer district letterhead, which we send to Cleveland Water Pollution Control, or maybe in the case of other communities such as Cleveland Heights or Shaker Heights, we would send a letter to them. Title V, those reviews are advisory comments in most communities. There are a few communities that would like our comments addressed and ask for a no objection letter to be sent to them once the review is complete here. Parma, North Royalton, and the county is another example in Olmsted Township specifically. Direct connection requests, again, you're connecting right to our facility, so we're going to send out a connection approval letter. That connection will need to be inspected at a later time, and the instructions for that will be included in the plans, and it'll be in that letter too. With any of these, we often copy the city engineers so they know. Acceptance of flow letter, again, the acceptance of flow is part of the PTI application, and you need to attach the acceptance of flow letter to your application. So that's on sewer district letterhead, and simply states that the treatment plants have the capacity for your new flow. As far as green infrastructure grant, utility verifications, and member community infrastructure program, you can just get the email from Sages. If you want something else, something on letterhead from the district, then please contact me directly and we can work that out. Next slide, please. So here's the contact information. There's my email address on there. We also have a generic email address, which is a little easier to remember. CDPP, which stands for Community Discharge Permit Program. My phone number is on here. We have instructions on our webpage. Many of these projects and review types are very location specific, and so feel free to reach out to me. Let me know what that location is, and we can exchange information and discuss on what type of review might be required. Some projects require multiple reviews. So that's all I have on SAGES and plan review here at the district. And next is my boss, who is Jeff Jowett, the Community Discharge Permit Program Manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. That was a really good presentation. So yeah, just make sure that folks are causing their plans to be submitted for Title IV, Title V review. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Rob or myself. So back in December, the Sewer District Board approved the repeal and replacement of Title III and Title IV. And so I'm going to talk to you folks about what that means and what those changes are. So next slide, please. So the Sewer District has the authority through the Ohio Revised Code 6119.08 to create Code of Regulations. And so Title III is the separate sanitary sewer code, and Title IV is the combined sewer code. These two codes have been around for many, many years. And after reviewing them and looking closely at them, we realized that it was time for some changes and some updates to ensure that these two codes are saying what we want them to say and that they are as user-friendly as possible. So next slide. So Title III, the update that we did there, the big thing was just the document structure. And like I just mentioned, we wanted these documents to be a little more user-friendly, not only for our member communities, but also for district staff. So again, this is for the separate sewered areas. We went through and rearranged some of the chapters and some of the structure of that document just to ensure that everybody could find what they're looking for a little bit better and improve the usability. We went through the definitions, looked at all of those, ensured that they aligned with our other codes of regulations, updated some definitions for clarity, and removed some other terms that we really didn't use and didn't need those definitions. But the biggest change for Title III is the creation of the Water Quality Technical Support Program. So what we did here is, in analyzing Title III and really doing a deep dive into this document, we recognized that in the old Title III, there were items, water quality items, Water Quality Act items that were addressed and regulated by others, such as SSOs, basement backups, failing septic tanks. Other entities already regulated those. And at the Sewer District, our approach with our Code of Regulations and with our member communities is not so much to be a regulator, but to help support our member communities. And so since somebody else was already regulating those items, what we did is we pulled those out of our permit. And we put those into a separate program altogether, which is the Water Quality Technical Support Program. And so this is a voluntary program that we're asking our member communities to participate in. There's really not a whole lot of change to what we are requesting you provide us with, the information and data on these water quality issues. But what we're doing is we're asking you to participate in this Water Quality Technical Support Program, and thus that will give you access to the MCIP funding. So we're taking the approach is that we're here to support the member communities in dealing with those issues, and we'll let others be the regulator on these water quality issues. All right, next slide. So like I mentioned before, with the creation of that Water Quality Technical Support Program, we're allowing others to do the regulation for it. You already have your MS4 permit. You're working with the Ohio EPA, the County Board of Health, and others. So you'll be reporting to them as far as the regulators, but we're here to help support you in dealing with those issues. So again, this is a voluntary program, but participating in that does make you eligible for MCIP funding to help you address those issues. But what is going to be in the permit, and what is going to be required, is that the member communities control excessive I&I. So, the sewer district just did the LSSES studies throughout our service areas and identified areas of excessive I&I. Those areas will be identified in the permit, and so we want to know what the plan is going to be to address this excessive I&I areas. We want our communities to maintain and update their local sewer data, implement best management practices, and create a community compliance plan. This is a 5-year plan outlining how compliance of the permit objectives will be achieved. None of this is really new. These are the same items that have been in your permit all along. We're just being a little bit more specific as to how and what we want you to do to address these. Next slide. We also updated Title IV. It's very similar to the update that we did to Title III, where we went through and looked at that document structure, aligned it with Title III so that the usability will be better for us and our member communities. Went through the definitions again, removed those that we didn't need, updated some, added some terms if need be. And then the big one here in Title IV is we created a new chapter on connections to or disconnections from the combined sewer system. So in this new chapter, it's the information within the chapter is not new, but we put it in its own chapter because we recognize the importance of this information when we're talking about connecting or disconnecting from the combined sewer system. The sewer district is putting in a major investment through Project Clean Lake to address combined sewer overflows. And so we want to make sure that we are protecting that investment, and we want to know about those connections and disconnections to the combined sewer system. So this goes right along with what Rob was talking about with that Title IV plan review. All right, next slide. So the benefits of these updates to Title III and Title IV, the big thing is just consistency. We wanted these documents, these codes of regulations to be more consistent, to make sure that they aligned better all across the district with our code of regulations, and really make it easier for our member communities to understand what is being asked of them and what is required. So one of the ways that we're going to do that is we're going to have one unified permit. In the past, if you were a community that had combined sewers and separate sewers, you would have 2 permits through us, one for Title III, which was the separate sewers, and another permit, which was for Title IV for the combined sewers. And so that just kind of got a little bit tricky in dealing with 2 permits. So we are going to just make one unified permit that will address both combined and separate sewers. We hope to improve the utilization of district resources for our member communities, kind of streamline things for member communities. So, again, we made a major investment with the local sewer system evaluation and studies all across our service area. We want to ensure that those plans are not just simply being put on the bookshelf and collecting dust, but they're being utilized to address these water quality issues. And to help fund those projects that are identified through the LSSESs, the MCIP program is out there to fund projects and to ensure that this work gets accomplished. So it's really going to come full circle, and everything will align with the LSSESs, the new unified permit, and the MCIP program. Usability will improve, the simplicity of the permits and of the codes will be better. And ultimately, water quality improvement and infrastructure investment will improve with these updates in Title III and Title IV. Next slide. Oh, I guess that was my last slide. So again, my name is Jeff Jowett. I'm the Community Discharge Permit Program Manager. We're here to help support our member communities, and we are rolling out the Title III and Title IV changes throughout this year. So we'll be looking for other opportunities to meet with you, and then the latter half of the year, the unified permits will be sent out to our member communities.
Thanks,
Okay,
Jeff. I did want to jump in and say that if you are new to your community, if you're a city engineer and you haven't received your local sewer system evaluation community reports, we can get those over to you via share file, and you can reach out to your watershed team leader to get you those. So those will be really important when you're working on that compliance plan for Jeff's group, and then also for submitting for member community infrastructure program grants. And with that, I'll kick it back over to Cisco.
All right, thanks, Jeff and Donna. So yeah, I'm going to cover infrastructure funding. So I'm going to talk about two sources here. The first is the Ohio Water Pollution Control Loan Fund. As part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the Ohio Water Pollution Control Loan Fund received an additional $100 million per year for the next 4 years. So 49% of this money will be dispersed through loans that don't need to be paid back, which they're referring to as principal forgiveness. And these will be awarded to disadvantaged communities. The district assisted communities with applying for these funds in 2022 and will be assisting again in 2023. This is the criteria for the disadvantaged communities. The communities had to meet 3 of the 4 categories to be considered for principal forgiveness. Last year, 20 of our member communities qualified as disadvantaged. You can see the numbers have changed just a little bit from last year, so we'll be looking at the new numbers to see if those communities have changed in their criteria. These are some of the projects that score well for the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund. As you can see, it's similar to the Member Community Infrastructure Program in that projects that benefit human health are a priority. So in 2022, we reviewed the communities that qualified for funding against the local sewer system evaluation study, the LSSESs, and we analyzed what projects we thought we could design, as well as the tier of the project to help prioritize these. We helped communities apply for 8 projects, and 3 ended up receiving principal forgiveness. This year, we've again been looking at how we can position communities to apply for this program in August. If your community is eligible for principal forgiveness, you'll likely hear from us in the future, and we'd love to work together to bring more funding into the region. So the second thing I'm going to talk about is our Member Community Infrastructure Program grant. So with MCIP, it's a competitive grant offered annually by the sewer district. For funding year 2024, there is $15 million available to be awarded. The grant program is created to address Clean Water Act issues, and since 2017, $62.5 million have been awarded. An additional $82.5 million in matching investment by the communities and other funding sources. So we've been quite busy. So if you take a look at this slide, you can look over the last few years. You can see a lot of great work has been done over the last 7 years and affecting various issues in the community, local issues in the community. And we look forward to your 2024 funding year submissions. So a few things I'd like to focus on. So there have been some changes in the MCIP policy. The most important change is how we will be distributing the funds. Previously, reimbursement has been the funding mechanism for MCIP. Communities would pay the consultant or contractor, and then we would reimburse those costs. But beginning July 1st, 2023, we'll be using direct disbursement. So direct disbursement means that the city will receive and review the invoices from the contractor, and then they'll make sure that the costs are correct, when the work is being done. And then they'll send the invoices to us. We'll review the invoices and then pay the community directly so that the community can pay the consultant. So direct disbursement begins July 1st. The current reimbursement procedures will remain in effect until June 30th, excuse me. You can expect an email from Linda Mayer in June with more details about this. And if you have an MCIP project agreement that was executed before this change was enacted, you can request that direct disbursement be the method used after July 1st. And then looking ahead at 2025, as you heard in Jeff's portion of the presentation, the communities will have the opportunity to participate in the Water Quality Technical Support Program. So participation in this program is required for a community to be eligible for next year's MCIP round. This anticipated change will likely be reflected in the 2025 MCIP request for proposals. So as we move forward through these code updates, Jeff will be reaching out to communities about this program and about how it'll affect MCIP. And here is the schedule for this year's MCIP program for 2024 funding. Hopefully, if you work for a member community, you received the MCIP request for proposals, which went out last week. If for some reason you didn't receive the email, the RFP along with the policy is on our website, neorsd.org, or feel free to reach out to me or any of the team leaders, and we'll get that information to you right away. As you can see on the schedule, the pre-proposal meetings are scheduled for April 17th to the 28th. We highly recommend that communities schedule these meetings to go over their projects. The more prepared applicants are for this meeting, the more prepared the review committee will be when June and July roll around for reviews. And then the last thing I want to touch on is the 2022 Clean Watersheds Needs Survey. So the US EPA has a Clean Watersheds survey that they send out every 4 years. So the survey helps congressional budgeting efforts and helps support public clean water initiatives. This slide probably looks familiar to you because we talked about this at the October's WAC meeting, but because of lack of submissions, the due date was extended to April 28th of 2023. So communities should submit local capital improvement plans for wastewater and stormwater assets. We would expect that most of these costs would be related to sewer rehabilitation, replacement, or pump station improvements. VAC trucks and other capital costs should be submitted as well. The district did give the Ohio EPA the LSSES plans. However, they're encouraging communities to supplement that information since it was done at a high level and it may not cover everything. So we want to make sure that you guys fill out your surveys and submit those. And then the last thing I have here is my contact information. Again, I'm Cisco Rivera, and you can see Donna's contact information, the manager of community watershed coordination. If you guys have any questions about any of the slides you saw or any information we gave today or any of your community needs, just reach out to me and I'll be sure to assist you. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was our next WAC meeting for the Chagrin River and Lake Erie direct tributaries is going to be in person. So we look forward to seeing all your smiling faces. I know the last few ones have been virtual, but we're excited to bring everyone back together in person. So we hope you can join us then. And does anyone have any questions before we wrap up for today?
I don't see any hands raised and I don't see anything in the chat, Cisco.
Okay. All right, everyone. Well, I thank you for attending today's meeting, and I thank all of our presenters for all the great information that they gave, and we will see you guys in the fall. Thank you for attending. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.